This is a continuation here. All right. This is from my story, the night journey, or the journey by night, in a novel I wrote. I'll be putting on the internet. It'll be called well, on the internet I'll call it the Injil, but when it's in book form, it will be Trucker Jihad. So I'll continue here. Okay. The Muslim who hijacked the truck yesterday, named Muhammad Atif, stopped the image of Neville, grumbled, and said he doesn't know what he's talking about. Atif stopped on the laptop mouse. Atif tapped on the laptop mouse again, restarting the sub's image. The sub, now as Neville said, "This CD you are possibly reading this message off of is just one version of possibly hundreds like it. But there aren't that many copies of the CD you are reading this off of, so feel free to turn it into a possible collector's item, especially if the project becomes more than just an experiment with Islam as planned. Every CD that was launched, possibly like this one, is deliberately made incomplete, containing only parts of a story that is a science fiction fantasy parable on how to end the war on terror. In other words, it gives instructions on how to end Islam." "Never!" shouted the angry truck hijacker Atif. "What?" asked the young Muslim who mimed throat cutting, who went by the name of Muhammad Ziad Harajabir. The image of the sub continued with, "or of an audio debate questioning a Muslim on Islam, a Muslim who is superb at jihad of the pen, as he uses al-taqiyya, basically licensed lying for Allah due to Quran 328 and 16106, which allows Muslims to lie. And this Muslim uses taqiyya with great effect. If you are really lucky, you might be, at most, one of 5 to own a CD that contains 2 mystery stories in their entirety, a very rare find indeed. And some of you might end up with CDs that, if you and others are able to come together on, can lead to a treasure worth 10,000 tax-free dollars." What a liar. "Right, $10,000, shouted Atef at the laptop on his lap. The image of the sub continued with, "The videos for that are very short, containing only one line each of poetry. Good luck in putting it together if many of these CDs are thrown away. If you can put it together, however, find out where the poetry leads, well, the first to come upon it gets the money." "It is better to fill a man's belly with pus than his brain with poetry," shouted the trucker at Muslim Atif with the laptop, realizing that what he had just said was what Allah's apostle had said in a hadith. Now as Neville's image was stopped, Atif huffed, saying, "How much you want to bet? It would lead to a letter saying, 'Fooled you, idiot.'" He tapped on the mouse again, activating Neville's image again, who continued with, "Anyway, although the CD in your possession might be one of thousands, know that there are, possibly at most, only 200 others exactly like it, making it all the more likely to be a collectible. For one thing, how many of these CDs do you know? How many of these CDs do you think will actually survive and not be tossed into the trash from those thinking it's some religious cult or computer virus? If in the process this CD could be the only one of its kind, making it all the more valuable when the main project produces another part that brings attention to Project Jihad a few years later. After all, Project Jihad is more than just an experiment. It's actually part of something that is far greater and has been in the planning for quite some time now. It has been in the planning for quite some time now. Keep in mind the sentence, 'messages from the edge of Earth.' Hopefully you'll want to see the 2 main video stories that are on these CDs in their entirety. But to do so, You will have to make this a group effort on the internet by downloading these videos onto YouTube, Live Link, Daily Motion, Live Video, or some other video site of your choosing. And if others do the same, by giving it the same title, you might be able to see the whole story in its entirety. The two main stories usually go by the titles of The Invasion of the Ramadars and The Mohammedan Who Comes Back from War. The latter is also known as Al-Taqi in Action. The really rare stories on the 5 CDs are, well, you'll have to find them out if they make it to the internet. One of them, called The Samson Option, is based on a true story. A true story I experienced that helped get me out of Islam. I mean, I'm the scary Muslim depicted in that story. For I was a scary Muslim because I really believed in Islam until I studied it. Now I'm a Christian. The trucker Muslim Atif rolled his eyes with unbelief as he growled, "Liar!" But again, I'm the scary Muslim on that train in that story, said Neville. Atif tapped the laptop mouse, stopping the sub from talking further. The image stopped with Neville smiling. "Scary Muslim," mocked Muhammad Atif. "Scary Muslim. Right, something to make everyone fearful of Muslims. Scary Muslim, indeed." Atif tapped on the laptop's mouse again, accidentally jumping ahead a bit, where Neville's digital image then said, "And hey, I'll let you come forward with the title if you end up with it. If you give them those titles, should you download them to LiveLeak or some other YouTube-like website, your chances of seeing them in their entirety is greatly increased. For the others who don't throw this away might give them those titles as well and post them to, say, YouTube. Also in the process, you might find others who have not only done the same, but end up seeing what was on other CDs like the CD you possess and are either reading or viewing this message. In other words, you might see downloaded videos exposing the Islam jihadi Muslims, terrorists, and stealth jihadis of the pen fight tooth and nail to try to deny and hide from you and the quickly shrinking non-Muslim world. Downloaded videos of lies, shouted the trucker Muslim with fury as Neville's image continued with, "Another thing about the CD you might be reading this off of is that even if they aren't thrown away, it still will be very rare indeed. For there will be about 30 other sets of CDs with a different set of videos that expose Islam. At most, again, there'll be about 30 different versions of Project Jihad. The only thing the CDs have in common with each other is that all have a complete little series of how the Quran says it's a confirmation reminder of that which before it, that is the Bible, which, if you think about it, seems to completely destroy Islam because the Quran doesn't confirm and remind squat when it comes to the Bible, since the Bible is mostly all about the sacrifice of an innocent, such as a lamb or Jesus Christ, for the remission of sins, to avoid hell, and the Quran is all about killing, Muslims say fighting, in the cause of Allah, but hey, it is killing, to avoid hell and gain something that sounds like a slothful broth in the sky, where, I kid you not, the patooties of the 72 virgins are supposed to be over a mile wide in size. A mile wide in size, folks. The mouse was tapped again, stopping the image of Neville. And the truck driver Muslim, who was Muhammad Atif, shouted with incredible fury, "Well, that's a lie! That's not authentic hadith about the virgins having a butt over a mile wide in size. That has to be hadith of Shiites. It has to be a lie, brothers. It has to be a lie." There was a pause. He then said, "It is a lie, isn't it?" Everyone on the van remained silent. After another pause, a Muslim by the name of Mahbub Mazen, who was sitting in the middle of the van, said over the recorded recitation of the recorded reciting of Quran 9. You are probably right, brother. Quit listening to that fool. He is destined for the fire, even if he did convert hundreds of thousands to Allah's religion before leaving it. The young Muslim who did the miming of throat cutting then said, why does that surprise you about the butts over a mile wide in size, brother? In Jannah, we will be giants. Like Prophet Adam, may Allah pray on him and give a blessing, was giant. The trucker Muslim called Atif suddenly drew a blank, glassy-eyed stare at the laptop screen on hearing that from the young Muslim Ziyad Hira Jabir and asked, Adam, may Allah pray on him and give him blessing, was giant? Yes, brother, said the van driving Muhammad Yesua Yasir, so giant that he bumped his head on the sky, scraping off his hair, which is why we have baldness today. Muhammad felt his heart sink. A look of fear entered his eyes, and he asked, What? What did you say? Prophet Adam, may Allah pray on him and give him blessing, before Allah, praise be unto him, shrank him down to our size, was giant, big giant, said the young-looking Muslim, Muhammad Ziyad Hura Jabir, whom I'm throat cutting. Atif made a gulping sound as fear increased more within him. He began to feel as if he was in a coal mine 20 miles deep, suddenly hearing and feeling a huge cave-in, the only exit out, trapping him in darkness without air. A horrible claustrophobic feeling began to descend down into his heart, into the heart of Atif, made worse when he thought of the man he shot in the head. He actually began to think what he might have killed. He actually began to think that he might have killed an innocent man yesterday, and all for nothing. The trucker Muslim Atif asked, how big, giant he was? The van driving Muhammad Yesua Yasir said, oh, brother, huge, brother, giant, so giant he was. Man, he bumped his head on sky, making him bald, because it, Muhammad Atif, this trucker, finished his sentence in monotone with, scraped off his head, which is why we have baldness today. Got it. Atif winced and groaned from the seriousness in the van driver's voice. Atif, who hijacked the truck the day before, felt himself becoming more sick within his stomach. When he again thought of the trucker he shot in the forehead for Allah, the feeling of being rewarded virgins was suddenly replaced with an urge to vomit. Muhammad Ziyad Hura Jabir, the young-looking Muslim who was sitting next to him, and whom mime throat-cutting, looked concerned to see how his brother was acting. What's the matter, brother? Can't you see now why mile-wide butts of virgins is no problem for us? Besides, in Jannah, our penises will be the size of palm trees. At Winston groaned. He trembled and asked, Palm trees? Yes, palm trees, smiled the young-looking Ziyad with hope in his eyes. Palm trees? Shouted Atif, as if feeling he was suddenly thrust into a nightmare that didn't make sense. The young-looking Muhammad Ziyad Hura Jabir said with a look of joy in his eyes that looked of mascara, and they will always be hard and erect. Perpetual hard-on, said the van driving Muhammad Yesua Yasir with a look of ecstasy in his eye, on his face. The trucker, Muslim Muhammad Atif, groaned out a cry of fear and horror again. He felt as though he couldn't get any air, even though there was plenty of coming in through the broken window. He put his head into his hands and whispered, Brother, palm tree is nothing against a butt as big as a mountain. It would be like splinter of wood in comparison to real butt. Muhammad Ziyad Hura Jabir, whom I'm throat cutting, said, Maybe the palm trees of Jannah are a mile high. Exactly, shouted the Muslims happily around the now troubled trucker Muslim named Atif. You should be scholar, Muhammad, congratulated the van driver, driving Yesua Yasir to the young mime of throat cutting. But concern for the laptop playing Atif wasn't relieved when they noticed he still looked sick and now on the verge of crying. He was fighting hard to keep from having a panic attack. I'll end it here.